Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 16, 2025 meeting of the Planning Commission of the City of Calabasas. The meeting is called to order, and John, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, we have two. We have two. You can fight amongst yourself and figure it out.
Code. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was just going to say, council, next time you can do it, but that applies to both of you, too.
Too many counselors.
We'll figure it out. All right, we have a full complement of commissioners tonight. Before I call for an approval of the agenda, let me grab the agenda. We have an item under new business, the Planning Commission reorganization. Due to the fact that the City Council meeting for the appointment of the new commission was canceled due to the fires, it's not appropriate for us to move forward with this tonight, and we'll put this over to our next meeting, perhaps.
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
I agree.
That's what we would do. We don't need a motion for this, do we? Do we need a motion?
Well,
for
motion to approve the
to
agenda.
amend it, yeah, as amended. Okay. Do we have any corrections, additions to the agenda other than that?
No other corrections.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the?
I'll move to approve as amended. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. The agenda is approved as amended. In terms of announcements, I don't typically presume to speak for my fellow commissioners, but I do feel comfortable in saying that our thoughts and prayers and good wishes go out to everyone who has been impacted by the recent fires. Such tragic events. And we can only hope for as speedy and well a recovery as is possible under the circumstances. Anyway, anyone? Matt? Bob? Dennis?
Well, I have a bunch, but I'm not going to say them now.
Okay. All right. Michael?
I would just say, as a matter of personal privilege, thank you to Commissioner Washburn, who lives in my neighborhood, or I live in his. And of course, he has his finger on the pulse of all things Calabasas, and was a great resource during the evacuation for me and my family with information. So thank you, Dennis.
Well, my pleasure. I'm glad we could be a contributing factor to your being here tonight.
Absolutely.
All right. Michael? Did you have
Just a
anything?
couple, with respect to the fires, and I thank you for your words. I just want to let everybody know that leaf blowers are now prohibited in Los Angeles County, and everybody should be aware of this.
You mean
can't-
gas leaf blowers?
No, all leaf blowers, no leaf blowers can be used right now.
Wow.
In Los Angeles County. So you should tell, everybody should know and should inform their gardeners or caretakers. Malibu banned them for the same reason after the Woolsey fire. It has to do with the particulates.
But it's a temporary
Yeah, I think,
situation.
well, we have to wait until things settle down and it's
Right.
not so windy and,
Right.
because there's a lot of bad stuff that could be circulated. It's harmful for our lungs and so forth. So this was the health department that issued that. And then the second that I'm sure a lot of you are aware is that your homeowner's insurance cannot be canceled or not renewed for 1 year. So that's just
Yeah.
good to know.
If I may, I think people should reach out to their individual insurance companies, because that is the edict that was set forth by the California Insurance Commissioner. However, I happen to know that the insurance companies are evaluating and considering, and so it's an individual thing. People should reach out to their own insurance companies to see what the status is. But hopefully that will be the case, at least for a year.
Thank you.
That's
That's
it?
all. Yeah.
I'll be sure to tell my gardener, John, no leaf blower.
It's actually bad for you. I mean, it's bad for us, so,
Get out the rake and the broom.
yeah.
I would like to actually make one announcement. It's, I think, important for everybody in the city of Calabasas, and that is that if you have heard any rumors or any misinformation about the quality of your water, you can disregard all of those, because there was an official announcement that most of us did receive from our Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. Our water does not need to be boiled. You're still hearing, from the Eaton Fire area that water is not reliable. That's not everywhere, but once that's said, it turns into a nightmare. But I would just reiterate that not only are we, dealing with water full circle and turning our water into a constant resource, at our expense, of course, but still, but our water now from the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District is safe and pure to drink. There isn't any limitation. If you need reclaimed water, you can probably get reclaimed water in any kind of container you need to take over on Saturdays at the Water District composting facility. So if you need to, fill up a fountain or a pond or something like that, reclaimed water is perfectly safe, not drinkable, but it's available to you for free. So I would just say that that's an important thing for everybody in the city of Calabasas, and spread the word, because the water is safe.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to public comments. At this time, the public may address the commission on any matter that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Public will also be given an opportunity to comment on matters that are on the posted agenda during commission deliberation on those specific matters. Do we have anyone? No, any speaker cards?
No speaker cards on items not on the agenda.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. We have the minutes. Let's see. Minutes. We have minutes from the meeting of Thursday, December 19th. Do we have any additions, corrections, or a motion to approve?
I have an addition on page 4. Speaker Tim Smith, when I made the approval, I said that he was at that meeting because he couldn't make a subsequent one. And I said, we need to have a detailed transcript of what he said. He gave a lengthy discourse, and we needed to have that when it's brought back. And that's what was omitted.
All right.
Where does it need to go, Bob?
This is on page, you said on page
Page 4.
4?
He's talking about the comments
could
that
put it
Tim
right into
Smith
this-
made.
Where I moved it, because it was part of that.
Okay.
If
You're
I
talking
can-
about Tim Smith's comments?
Yeah.
Yes, it was very lengthy and,
Very
It-
specific.
yeah, very specific.
If I can, at that meeting, we also pointed out that Tim Smith had submitted his comments in writing, and his verbal commentary was the same script as the handout. So I don't think that made it in as a motion for that item. But you did bring it up, I remember that, but we actually have a script, and it was written by Tim Smith and submitted to us.
And that's part of the public record.
And part of our public record,
Okay,
correct.
I don't think we had it at that meeting, though. I don't recall it at all.
We didn't have it. So I guess when this comes back, can we get that?
Well,
or-
It was handed to Tim. If you guys would like copies of that, we can certainly send you guys copies of that. It's going to be included with the staff report when the item goes to you guys.
That's what I want,
so-
that when
Okay.
we get the staff report, we have his details.
Oh, correct,
comments.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's-
So that
that's
is your
all.
script essentially. The minutes that we normally take are just action
I
minutes.
just remember hearing it. Why are we getting it?
Does that understand?
You want to move the minutes with that addition?
Based on what we were just told, yes, I'll move approval.
Okay,
And
we have
I'll
a
second
second? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I was not at that meeting, so I will
And thanks for bringing it up,
abstain.
Bob.
Yeah. All right, so motion is carried 5, I believe it's 5.
Yes.
All right. All right. On to adoption of Resolution 2025-803, file number CUP 2024-003, located at 23637 and 23639 Calabasas Road, consistent with the Planning Commission direction on December 19th, 2024. We have a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
I have a,
Yeah.
I have a comment or a
Okay.
possible change to the resolution. Well, first of all, I was going to mention that, I was going to ask, why does Med Spa have a freeway-facing sign? But for some reason, between the time we got this and now, that sign seems to be gone. But on this project, on the construction hours, as in previous cases, I've asked why we don't allow construction on Sundays like Saturdays from 8 to 5, because this is not a residential area, it's just a shopping center, and I don't know why they can't, if they're working inside, basically, why we would have any problem with them working on a Sunday. So that would be my only, I've made that suggestion, and the Planning Commission has adopted it previously for commercial areas. Is that allowed? And if so, could I make an amendment, offer an amendment to that?
I would like to hear from our city attorney.
Oh, okay.
If, in terms of consistency with our, any code sections that we have that address that, or any other,
And before we hear that, I would just note that I don't recall the applicant requesting to be able to work on Sunday. Probably didn't think about it. But given the fact that the applicant essentially, and maybe they have a representative here, accepted the conditions at the time, or at least didn't object, maybe they don't care. But
Maybe they can answer that, and maybe the city attorney
Right.
can say if it's prohibited or something.
The one question I had, and I haven't had a chance to look at the actual noise ordinance of the city, but many city noise ordinance say that construction should not occur on Sundays.
that's
and-
typical.
And that's
Yeah.
typical, but that.
But we
can
have
check
allowed
the-
it before, so, yes, in on Las Virgenes, near the 101, there was, I think, a Mexican restaurant going in. I don't know if it ever went in, but
Was that all tenant improvement work, interior?
yes,
That was interior
Yes,
work,
yes.
not exterior.
correct.
I can imagine that as precedent setting, even if it was fair and right to make an exception in this case, so that if they wanted, they could. It's going to cause some significant turmoil, if you think about it, in terms of us and the council and our legal evaluation of those things, to say that we're changing, I guess, our noise constraints, if you want to call it that, and your inconvenience, because not every circumstance is going to allow a Sunday
Oh, right,
activity.
this is only for commercial zone. I mean, there's nobody who lives there.
But even that,
But-
though,
but is the
if we,
approach a resident, I think that we end up, there are lines that can be crossed, and even though it may be a commercial area, are there vehicles making noise? Are there trucks making noise that impact an adjacent residential area? And whether this project or other, it's a precedent that I'm not real comfortable setting at this point. And
Well,
especially in light of what Commissioner Miller said in terms of, I agree, I was not at that particular meeting, but if the applicant,
If I may, I can't find anything in the noise ordinance about the construction hours, but I will point out that although there's no residences near this, there is a hotel directly adjacent to this, and a hotel is like a residence. So you may wish to consider that, the Dianza Hotel.
yeah.
Well, if the applicant's comfortable with this, then, okay.
Well, hang on, I'd have to open public hearing. Do we want to put this on the record?
It's entirely up to
You know what,
if you want to
we
take
might as,
testimony.
let's put it on the record. I'm going to open public hearing. If you'd come on up, give us your name and city of residence, and you've heard the discussion, and please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Amr Gabrar. I'm a resident of the City of Los Angeles. I'm here on behalf of Veterinary Emergency Group, the applicant. While we do appreciate the amendment and understand the intent behind it, I think we are comfortable with the resolution as drafted and understanding potential precedent setting for the city. I think we'd be comfortable having it just as is.
No one in construction wants to work on Sunday. All right, thank you.
There are exceptions, like
I'll close the public hearing and,
Make a motion
yes.
that we approve resolution, or recommend the approval of Resolution 2025-803.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Again, I wasn't at the meeting, and we have a full complement of commissioners, so I will refrain from voting. That passes 5-0. Congratulations. And let's move to the next item. We're on to public hearings. This is file number SGNP-2024-001, MSCP-2024-003. It's a request for a sign program and minor scenic corridor permit to accommodate new signage at the Malibu Canyon Plaza Shopping Center located at 26500 Agora Road. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. First, I want to mention that this project was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. The public hearing notice was also posted on the city's website and throughout the city at all required locations. And we did not receive any public correspondence in regards to this project. And again, this is a request for a sign program and minor scenic corridor permit for the purpose of accommodating new signage at the Malibu Canyon Plaza Shopping Center located at 26500 Agora Road, within the Commercial Retail Zoning District, Scenic Corridor Overlay, and Las Virgenes Gateway Master Plan area. So in this aerial, you can see the project location. The property is located within the CR zone, and again, within the Las Virgenes Gateway Master Plan and Scenic Corridor Overlay. Las Virgenes Road is a designated scenic corridor, so due to the proximity of Las Virgenes Road, the project site is within the Scenic Corridor Overlay zone. Surrounding land uses include a shopping center to the north, Las Virgenes Creek to the west, and vacant property entitled for single-family residential to the east, and existing single-family residences to the south. This is a little bit more of a close-up view of the subject site. You can see here, again, located at 26500 Agora Road. It's at the intersection of Las Virgenes Road and Agora Road. The site is 2.53 acres. It is improved with a 42,596 square foot two-story shopping center. There is retail and restaurant tenants on the ground floor and then office tenants on the second floor, plus one individual restaurant building, as you can see in this picture. Here's a photograph of the site. This is the site as viewed from the intersection of Las Virgenes Road and Agora Road. And you can see in this picture the previous monument sign at the center. In the background, you can see the building-mounted signage for the retail and restaurant tenants. We can see the standalone restaurant building and then the Jack in the Box signage. Again, this is a request for a sign program and a minor scenic corridor permit to accommodate new signage at the Malibu Canyon Plaza Shopping Center at 26500 Agoura Road within the CR zoning district, scenic corridor overlay, and Las Virgenes Gateway master plan. And Calabasas Municipal Code Section 17.30.050 subsection C requires a request for a sign program to be approved by the Planning Commission. Here we have the proposed site plan. This depicts existing tenant signage locations. You can see in red right here, this is the location of the existing tenant signs. Then you can see right here the existing monument sign, which is to be removed. The new monument sign shown in blue here, which is proposed, and then the existing Jack in the Box pole sign right here. And at this restaurant, standalone restaurant building, we also have 2 building-mounted signs. The tenant signage shown in the site plan diagram is intended to be for the first floor retail and restaurant tenants only, with no building-mounted signs proposed for the second floor office tenants. So as part of this project, the only new signage that is proposed is this new monument sign, which will be located at the intersection of Agoura Road and Las Virgenes Road at this corner. And then this existing monument sign is proposed to be removed. So other than this one new monument sign, there are no other additional new signs requested as part of the proposed sign program. This just gives a little bit more of a close-up view of the signage at the center. This was their previous monument sign, which was a legal non-conforming monument sign, again located at that corner intersection. And this prior monument sign fell down in late 2023 due to heavy winds in the area. So this monument sign shown in the photo, this is just for reference as to what it previously looked like, no longer exists. And then we have this existing monument sign at the other driveway off of Las Virgenes Road. So those were the 2 previous monument signs at the center. Again, this one has since fallen down, and this monument sign is proposed to be removed as part of this project. Because of the fact that this monument sign has been destroyed in the winds last year, pursuant to section 17.30.090, subsection A of the Calabasas Municipal Code, a legal non-conforming sign shall not be reestablished following the damage or destruction of more than 50% of the value of the sign. Therefore, because this sign has been destroyed, a new sign being proposed must meet all requirements of the municipal code and cannot continue that previous nonconformity. Additionally, the municipal code requires that in order to construct a new multi-tenant monument sign, a sign program is required. So because of the fact that they're proposing a new multi-tenant monument sign, that is the reason that a sign program is being requested. And on this slide, you can just see a little bit more of a close-up view of the proposed monument sign location. Again, it's at this corner here. It's about 8 feet at the closest point from the edge of the sign to the property line. And here you can see the visibility triangle area to make sure that the monument sign doesn't block views along the sidewalk or of cars along the roadway. So you can see we have 20 feet here and 20 feet here from the monument sign to the edge of the sidewalk. And here's an elevation view of the proposed monument sign. You can see it is internally illuminated. It includes, as shown here, Spanish roof tiles for consistency with the architecture of the existing shopping center, as was shown in the photos on the prior slides. It includes a faux dark wooden beam as an eyebrow, and it includes a stone veneer base. The applicant has also provided a physical colors and material board with colors and material samples. You can see that over here, which has a sample of the, which has a sample of the roof tile and the stone veneer base. You can see those. I can hold them up if the commission wants to see them closer. And in this image, you can see the total height of the sign from grade to the top of the roof is 9 feet. The width of the sign is 10 feet 9 inches. And the area of the sign face, which does not include the support structures, so that would be this area right here, is 49 square feet. And the code requires a maximum of 100 square feet per face. The Architecture Review Panel reviewed the proposed project on November 22nd, 2024. The subject site is located within the Scenic Corridor Overlay Zone, as well as within the Las Virgenes Gateway Master Plan area. The ARP reviewed the proposed project and found that the proposed sign program is consistent with the Scenic Corridor Design Guidelines and Las Virgenes Gateway Master Plan, and recommended approval of the project to the Planning Commission as proposed. So there are 2 required findings for a sign program per section 17.30.050, subsection F of the Municipal Code, and the applicant's proposed findings are included in your packets as Exhibit B. Moving on, we have 4 required findings for a minor scenic corridor permit per section 17.62.050, subsection D of the Municipal Code, and again, those are included in your packets within Exhibit B provided by the applicant. So with that, staff concludes that the proposed sign program for an existing commercial shopping center is an allowed use in the CR zoning district, and compliance with the applicable municipal code standards is documented within the written staff report. The architecture review panel did recommend approval of the proposed project, and the project is exempt from CEQA review pursuant to section 15061, section 15301, and section 15311, which is accessory structures on premises signs of the California CEQA guidelines. So staff recommends that the commission direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval or to prepare a resolution for denial of file number SGNP-2024-001 and MSCP-2024-003, inclusive of all the required findings to support the resolution. Staff is prepared to assist the commission in developing findings for approval or denial of the permit as required. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Before I open the public hearing, do we have any questions of Jacqueline, of staff?
Just one quick question. Am I correct that the Jack in the Box signage is not relevant to this discussion?
It's not part of their proposed project, since the only signage that they're proposing to alter is the one new monument sign and then removal of that secondary existing monument sign.
I only asked because there was a lot of information in the packet about the Jack in the Box sign, but didn't seem relevant.
It's not a part of their project scope of work, no.
Thank
But it
you.
is one of the existing signs on site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Following that, I noticed in the drawings that there are blade signs, what they call blade signs, and under canopy signs. Are those part of the project, or I don't know why that was there?
So the municipal code does currently allow for that. The site doesn't have a sign program right now, but they could be installing those signs. So because of the fact that those are allowed signs under the municipal code, they're accounting for them in the sign program since they are allowed under the municipal code. But I don't believe that they're planning to install any that they don't already have. They're just planning, the sign program is they have to provide guidelines for all sign types that could be allowed at the center under the municipal code.
So they wouldn't have to come back then if they wanted blade signs or?
Right,
under
as long
canopy
as they're
signs?
planning for them in the sign program, then each individual sign doesn't have to come back to the commission. Only the overall sign program, which provides guidance for every sign that they could install.
All right, well,
is-
maybe we'll hear from the applicant, because I'm a little troubled by that. There's already a lot of signage on the front of every unit. Anyway. Okay.
But I can add that those signs would need a sign permit if they were to apply for them. So
But
they
the-
would have a review
But a review by whom? But it's by staff.
by staff.
But I'm concerned because it would be like anyway, we'll find out from the applicant what they want to do, I guess.
All right?
Okay.
Anything that's it? Okay. Commissioner Washburn.
Want to go this way? Okay.
Sure. Right, going down the line.
I have a question about the sign that on the photograph on page 4 is, I'm sure, a temporary sign and is probably allowed, but I want to understand the circumstances for signs that are not a part of the application that we're being asked to approve this evening. It says, I see the letters L and A in a logo, and then available 818-223. Am I not looking at the right thing?
So that's
What
Mike Tingus's sign.
It's a real estate sign.
I'm sorry?
It's Mike Tingus's company.
Well, I understand, but the sign, the structure of that sign, that's not being addressed in this application, I'm guessing, correct?
The for lease sign.
Yes, and just to clarify, this is an old image from Google Maps, just to show you the previous signage at the center. I'm not positive whether or not that signage does exist, but this image is from last year. And our
So-
code does allow for temporary real estate signs. Again, I'm not sure if the sign is presently up, but it should not be allowed other than the time limits allowed per our code.
I guess that's what I'm asking about, because I see that this is actually a terrific solution to the ransom note photograph I'm looking at here, because the signage that's been on that corner for a long time looks more like a ransom note than actually instructional signage on what to use in the way of the shopping. And it's also a huge structure, which obscures the ability to see what shops are in the shopping center in the first place as you're going through a very busy intersection. So it looks to me like this is very good, but I'm curious just, I guess, about what the temporary sign allowances are and how do they interact with what is being proposed in the new Malibu Canyon Plaza signage. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes, I believe so. So just to clarify, you said that the sign does currently still exist today? I wasn't sure if that's what you were saying, that you had
Well,
used.
you
know
said
if
it's an
that's
old
there?
photograph, number one.
Yes.
Two, I don't know whether that leasing sign is up now, and what is allowable in the way of leasing signage, and does it get in the way of what we're going to potentially approve this evening?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's still up today, but our regulations are one allowable is 124 square foot wall sign for each occupancy, no lighting of the signs allowed. Sign may not project above the eave. The sign may only remain on the property until the property is sold or leased. That's for commercial zones in a temporary real estate sign.
Is there a term of time that is allowable for leasing signs? And
Just until the property is sold or leased. It says the property in our code. This, I imagine, is because there's vacant tenant spaces. So as long as vacant tenant spaces persist, they can have a temporary real estate sign.
I see. Okay, that helps me understand. It doesn't really affect what we're being asked to consider tonight, right?
Correct.
Okay. I just don't want to see, 19 signs that are around the skirt of this lovely monument sign that's going to be constructed if we approve the project.
Yeah, and those are under exempt signs. So no
Okay.
sign permit required for a temporary real estate sign.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Right. Commissioner Leah?
I can answer a question that was raised. I live in the area. If you're driving down the street, you really can't see any of the businesses. They're too low, and between the Jack in the Box and the signage, you really need a monument sign if you want to be able to locate what's in there.
Okay, and you're responding to what Commissioner Harrison was referring to?
Well, there was a question about
I think.
being able to see into the shopping center when you're driving down the road. And you can't, you really can't.
That's going to be changed.
Well, not really, because this monument sign in this photo is gone. So,
Well, but if you're coming down this way, you can see all the old buildings and the cars, and they're all one-story shops, so they're screened.
so even, you're saying even without the monument sign, which has been missing for almost 2 years, year and a half since it blew down, so you cannot see,
You
you're saying
really-
that even without it,
You really
you
cannot
can't
see
see.
there,
it.
yes.
Okay, that
And
may,
it's too
that may
busy
have
an
something to do
intersection
with
to
your
stop
concern.
and crawl and look.
Right.
Well, I wasn't talking about the monument sign.
No,
that-
he's talking
I-
about
I was-
seeing
I was talking about
the-
the other signs that are underneath that it's like an
But he's saying that
arcade.
you can't see, I believe Commissioner Leah is saying that you cannot actually see where you're talking about.
Oh, no, you have to go into the parking lot and then
Yes.
you can see.
In order
it.
to see it.
Yeah.
And they're small stores, it's not like an Albertsons
yeah.
where it's
Right,
extended and you can pick it up.
okay. Thank you.
Well, I guess then,
Yes.
with what Bob just asked, what is the height of the existing sign that's in the photograph that's old on page 4?
We believe it's about 14 feet in height, and I think the applicant can confirm that. It was definitely legal non-conforming in regards to the size
Right.
before.
Well,
But by comparison, the proposed one is 9 feet.
Thank you. I'm looking at the dimensions, and it looks like it's a 9-foot tall monument structure,
Yeah.
and 10'9" in width, or thereabouts, if you're looking at the roof. So it is a substantial reduction in the structural obstruction
Yes.
of
Correct.
the
And the previous
shops in the
sign,
center, and it's a heck of a lot better than the ransom note signage, in my opinion. That's another story, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
All right. Commissioner, no? Okay. Are there questions of the applicant? Yeah? Okay. I am going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask, and I'm sorry, I can't read your writing, Ryan I'm sorry, Iborra.
He'll give us his
Couldn't
name.
tell if it was an R or an S.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Oh, no worries.
I usually try to type everything. It's been 30 years and I'm still working on the handwriting. So.
Well, please, state your name and city of residence, please.
Good evening, staff. My name is Ryan Ibarra. I represent the Signs and Services Company, and I am a resident of Pomona.
Okay, and do you have a presentation, or are you here to just answer
I'm sorry?
commissioners' questions? Do you have a presentation, or are you here just to answer questions?
No presentation. Jacqueline, thank you very much. Great presentation. Everything's been awesome working with Jacqueline. She's on it. Just want to let everybody know.
right.
Staff's been great, so I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. I'm going to start on this end.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Thank
I'm
you.
not sure if you know, but what's to be done with the grounds where that smaller sign is going to be removed? The secondary sign, is it just going to be grassed over? Or is there
I
gonna
believe
be-
it'll be grassed over,
Okay.
correct?
That's all I needed to know.
Commissioner Leah, any questions?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Washburn.
Well, just, I guess, to confirm what I was blabbering about, it's a 9-foot plus monument sign replacement for a 14-foot tall.
I think the sign's actually around 16 feet, but
Yeah.
it's about 14, 15, somewhere right around there.
I think the structure and also the design and the simplicity of a single typeface for the tenants that are there are going to make it easier to understand what's in the center. And physically, you'll be able to see from a number of different angles, from what I can tell. The only thing I'd want to avoid would be any, obstruction or interference, if I can, or conflict with leasing signs or anything else that might go up. And that's where I don't understand necessarily what our constraints are in terms of timing. And you said 20, well, you didn't give me a signage for the leasing sign possibilities. Because that sign right now is probably about 6 feet wide and maybe 5 feet tall on legs. I'm talking about the leasing sign in the photograph that we're using. So if that is something that is covered by our current code and you're happy with that, and it doesn't interfere with the approval this evening, then that answers my question, and it could be dealt with at a different time.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it is part of the code, and it's a matter of right under the code, the sales and leasing signs. So, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Harrison?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have the same question. Maybe you can answer it better. I'm concerned about the blade signs and the under canopy signs, since, there'll already be this monument sign, which I think is really nice. And I agree with Dennis, it's much more readable than this old sort of cluttered one. That's hard to follow. But and the stores already have signs in the front. Once you go in the parking lot, you can find the right store. I don't know why you would need even more signs going sideways when you're walking in the arcade. Once you're walking or you're parked, you can pretty much see. So I don't know why you're asking for possible blade signs and under canopy signs.
So we're actually not asking for additional signage than what the code allows, and this proposal is actually just for the monument sign itself. This isn't a document. The intent of this is not to ask for additional signs, under canopy signs or blade signs. I believe your code does allow it, so what we did for the client was try to allow them everything that the code allows and not limit them. That's kind of what we'd like to try to do for the client. So when a new tenant comes in, they're allowed what's allowed for code. But the main intent of this was just the monument sign only.
So does your
But this-
client want to put in those blade
No,
signs or
to
can't?
my understanding, no. Everything's in uniform right now. There is no blade signs. This isn't saying, hey, we are going to put in blade signs. To my understanding, my client has no interest in that at all. I think
Okay.
they like to keep the uniformity, and as of right now, there are no blade signs. This is just merely almost a copy of the code, but it just gives the client or anybody that comes in anything that the code does allow. And also, this would have to be approved through the owner as well, and it seems at the point right now they are not allowing anyone to put additional blade signs.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, Commissioner Mueller?
No questions.
All
Can I
right.
come back in that case?
Absolutely.
I got one other thing. I made a presumption that the typeface and size of the tenant name on the monument sign would be at least of a uniform and appropriate design description or requirement, but I may have made a mistake in that. Are we just talking about the physical structure of the Malibu Canyon Plaza monument sign at 9 feet 10 by 10 foot 9?
I'm sorry, is your question about the actual letters that are going to go on the monument sign himself?
Yeah, or is it in fact open to the branding and logo signage of each of the tenants that are occupying the center?
I believe they'll all be in uniform, and there is prescribed colors in here for the letters themselves, so there won't be red, blue, yellow, all kinds of different colors. It will all be in uniform.
And I think I can jump in and answer that too, Commissioner Washburn. I believe if the landlord wants to enforce that, they are able to do that, but my understanding, and our city attorney can confirm, is that the city cannot require corporate brand, Subway, for example, to not use their corporate, am I correct, logo, colors, things like that, but I believe the landlord can choose to.
Well, that changes my commentary in that case, because
I'm sorry, let's just get the city attorney's response
yeah,
on record.
please do.
That is correct, because that is seen as regulation of speech, and we cannot use a sign ordinance to regulate the content of speech. And logos and things like that have been interpreted to constitute speech, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Michael and I both have experience in dealing with what that kind of international corporate branding can do to a community. The auto dealerships, for example, you know, they all want to use their own design impacts on a community, and they're competing with every other automobile manufacturer and their signage and everything else, and it can get really messy and sloppy. And then they come in and say, well, I can't have you, you know, putting trees up in front of my parkways, and you can't have lighting that would conflict with my corporate branding and so forth. And what I'm saying is that if the owner of the property is in fact looking to, I'll use the word normalize, it's not a good word, but you know, from a graphic design standpoint, the calmness and the clarity and the readability of what I'm looking at on page 9 is totally favorable to me, and I think to the community. But if you have a Subway logo and you have a Jack in the Box logo and all the colors, that's when it starts to look like a ransom note instead of, you know, an instructional signage to help the customers safely get into the parking lot. And then you can look at all the branding you want on the signs that are on the shops themselves, because that's what they're designed for, and that's what I think that you're aiming for with the overall sign program ultimately, but I don't know that for sure. All I know is what I see on this piece of paper on page 9, which I think is terrific, but if it's not going to happen, and it turns into another ransom note design, that's, I think, a problem. And not about the structure. The structure is, I think, going to be valuable to you, to the owners, to the pedestrians, and to the drivers that are going to be going by these signs for the next 20 years.
Well, hopefully the owner will hear what you're what you're saying and your concerns, but what I'm hearing is that from our end, you know, it's up to the owner to choose to do that and police it. We can't do it. So,
Could I ask another question?
Sure.
Sorry, just looking at this page, I don't know if you can see this. There's palm trees on either side of the Malibu Canyon Plaza sign, but on the right sign, it looks like there's a palm tree in front of the sign and in back of the sign also.
This isn't, unfortunately, a landscaping plan. This isn't the proposed landscaping. So I think this is just more for visual effect. But if, you know, we have to insert a landscaping plan to show what is going to be there, I can have my team provide that as well.
Okay, but I just presume that that's a mistake or something?
Yeah,
I can't imagine you would put that in front of the signs.
Yeah, sorry. That's a mistake. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, do we have
And
any?
I agree with everything that Dennis said.
One other question, please.
Yeah.
Certainly.
What is the size of the letters where it's tenant name?
I believe they are less than 6 inches. I believe they're about 5 inches. I think there's a ½ inch space between the top and bottom of the panel.
Okay, so they're 5 inches high.
About 5 inches high, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there 8 tenants? Or,
I don't know how many tenants you're actually going to put on the sign.
oh, okay. So there may not be a space between.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to close the public hearing. Do we have any comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
And I'll second that,
And let's have discussion.
but I do want discussion, yeah.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Who wants to kick off the discussion?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for coming out here from Pomona. That's, especially under these circumstances, that's really amazing. I think this, the structure, as Dennis said, is wonderful. And it looks so much better than the previous structure. And if you can if the landlord can keep it looking sort of like this, as opposed to all those logos Dennis was talking about in colors, it would actually be beneficial to shoppers, because it's easier to see. That other one, you know, the old one, it's too hard to see all that. You had to know that there's a UPS store there or that there's a Subway there. Anyway, so just let my thoughts go to the landlord. And thank you. But this is really lovely. The tile, the stone facade, and the whole thing.
Agreed.
It's really nice looking. I wish they all looked like that.
Any further comments?
I would just say that if this is, according to our attorney, up to the owner of the property and the design, I guess, sensitivities of the owner of the property and the rules that he's able to set, or she, and what we're seeing is a very sensible proposal that, from my personal experience, enhances the utility of this whole shopping center in a big way, and eases the difficulty of sorting out who's in a center, and there's always change. But if you have an old sign up because there's a vacancy and all those principles, those are up to the property owner, I'm sure. But the people who suffer are the people who are looking to get into the center and buy something or sell something or be there for whatever reason. And if they're confused, even the slightest, that's too busy an intersection to deal with all the choices that you have to make and all that uncertainty about the display of corporate graphics and messaging and logos and colors and everything else. There's a perfect solution, and I like it personally, and it's in line with what we've been trying to do in the community. And many of the monument signs throughout the city of Calabasas have been gone over with this kind of care, and we do realize our limitations. At the same time, when somebody's showing us something that looks right on the money, approve it, let's make it happen. But if it turns into another ransom note, I don't know if I want to approve that. And I'm asking my attorney about that circumstance.
The law with regard to the regulation of signs is very restrictive on public agencies under the First Amendment. So we can regulate the size of type, we can regulate the size of letters, we can regulate the size of the monuments, kind of the structural side.
And the lighting and, I mean, all
and
the
lighting
above.
and all that. But anytime we get into the area of the content of the speech, which would include the use of logos and those types of things, the city cannot regulate that. The private property owner can regulate that.
Which is
And it-
a good thing, and that's what I'm asking about. Can we, in fact, make a statement as we are approving this, that we would strongly recommend that it does, in fact, conform to the style and the design proposal of the entire sign, and not just the shape and size of the monument sign itself?
I think you've communicated your concerns, and that's been communicated. I would recommend that the commission avoid making any recommendations with regard to the content of the speech.
And I'm not doing that. You know, I'm saying that the style of the content is important, and if the owner does hear and will in fact collaborate with us on that, it's for their good as well as ours.
May I make a comment?
Of course.
I think we all have to bear in mind that property changes and owners change, and what we might want may not be what the next owner wants. And if the next owner wants to put a subway in its colors, and provided it otherwise meets the size of the letters and all of that, and provided the owner says okay, you could end up with logos and different colors on the sign.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from council is we can make our wishes known, but we can't order it.
This is probably something for the general plan.
I would also note, though, that the program as currently presented appears to place limitations on the colors of the type and the like. And so any future signs will need to be consistent with the program that's adopted tonight, that they have voluntarily offered
You'd
to
hope so,
maintain.
yeah.
But
Well,
the program can be modified.
The program can be modified, but it will have to be modified through an approval
Okay.
process by
Well,
the city.
I'm sure you've heard, so thank you. And
I think you have
I'm
made,
done.
I think you have made your thoughts very clear, and I think that they have been heard by the applicant's representative, and I'm sure they will have some discussion about it. But in
Well,
terms
there's
of,
always administrative review as well of the completion of any assignment like this. And I think that expressing the opinion is valuable in terms of community values, aesthetically as well as practically speaking. So
yes,
I'm glad we've had this conversation. Thanks very much.
all right, thank you. And do we have a motion?
It wasn't. You have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. That's what I get for going out of
It was
town
just
and
discussion.
getting back and have to reacclimate. Any further discussion? All right. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Passes 5-0, 5-0. And this will come back to us at our next meeting.
Oh, actually,
with-
the motion should be recommend that we prepare a resolution of approval,
Well, that's,
right?
I assume that was the
That's
motion.
basic. Yeah.
Figured you're going to do that.
Then, that is always with our current procedures, that is always the case, unless it's advisory. So this will come back to us with an actual, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. So the resolution will come back at our next meeting and be approved at that time. Okay, thank you. All right. We are on to the director's report.
And once again, I will play the director tonight.
do it well.
I, like all of you, want to reiterate that my heart goes out to everyone affected by the fires. I personally have a few family, friends that have lost homes, unfortunately, and I know they have a very long, arduous process ahead of them. We had to go through that with Woolsey, and we know how long it could take. So again, I hope the best for them, and I hope their respective jurisdictions can find ways to expedite the process as much as possible. My short director's report is going to include that we have a meeting coming up on February 6th. And right now, we have one item that is scheduled for that meeting, unless things change, a new house on Park Belmonte. So we'll look forward to bringing that to you. And then, of course, if the city council takes their action and reappoints all of you, then we will figure out a new reorganization to this group. So we'll look forward to all that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Terrific, thank you. Do we have any further comments by any of the commissioners? Commissioner Mueller?
Nothing here.
Commissioner Harrison?
No, thank you.
Commissioner, no, you don't get to punt down to the end over
I'm
there.
just looking at-
You're
just shut up
next
until
in,
you
you're
tell me I
next
can-
in, no, you're next in line. Anything else?
Okay. Well, this is a sad thing to report. If you haven't already heard, one of our founding council members and cityhood founders, Marvin Lopatas, passed away, and December 27th, and there will be an invitation-only celebration of life. A number of friends and relatives and so forth that are going to say the nice things about him. Fabulous guy, and I'd like to have us schedule him, if the council is going to do it, I'm sure, as well, you know, is to celebrate his life at the dais here and talking about all the things that he did to help us get this thing going. And the other thing that has happened is that another founding council member, Bob Hill, moved from Calabasas to Pacific Palisades, only to have his new home just totally refurbished, totally destroyed. And I spoke to him this morning in the desert, and he does have a place to stay, but he has nothing except his 2 cars. So a lot of people, like you just said, you know, are facing immense pressure and stress and, you know, corrective action and whatever. So I reassured him that anything that the city has done and will do to deal with city obligations to him and to also Marvin's family, you know, we'll make sure that that happens in an appropriate way. So that's the sad news. And there are a lot of recovery efforts that are happening now, and I would just encourage anyone who wants to give in some way, whether it's money or whatever, be generous, but be really careful. There's so much scamming going on, as you've heard all the reporters talking about anyway. You can verify through the IRS the legitimacy of the 501c3s that you may wish to support, like, you know, the World Central Kitchens, you know, Red Cross, you know, the usual. And there are a lot of local organizations and 501c3s like that that can actually bring benefit to the local communities of the San Gabriel Valley and the coastal resources here in the Santa Monica Mountains, and many of us who have had to evacuate or at least had our power shut off in one way or another. So don't miss out on any benefits that you're entitled to, but also be careful about people looking to take advantage of the circumstances. And if you have any questions, I know that our staff people are prepared to be able to help or to refer you to the proper county and or state officials. And your state representatives can also guide you in order to be appropriate with your generosity and your help.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Leah?
Nothing.
No? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn, and do we want to adjourn in memory of?
Well, let's do it
You
at
wanna
at-
do it
at
the
a
city?
future meeting, after we reorganized or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
I just want to make sure that we don't forget.
of course, of course. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.